MSNBC political analyst Robert Costa, national political reporter at The Washington Post, and MSNBC contributor, my friend James Peterson of Lehigh University. It's great to see you in person here in Pennsylvania. Maybe I'll start with you, Jeremy. You're a veteran of several campaigns, presidential campaigns. Talk to me about the Kaine choice, particularly with respect to where he fits on the sort of electoral map.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fantastic choice. I had the fortune of working with Senator Kaine when he was at the DNC. And there's been a lot said about his progressive values, a lot said about him being ready for the presidency. The thing that is so fantastic about him is he's just a great human being. His character, I've worked with a lot of people in elected office over my years. There is no one I've worked with who I trusted more, who treated me with more kindness, with more generosity, who was smarter, more talented. He's a fantastic choice. Obviously, there's a lot of benefit in Virginia and some other states, but I think just the first thing is he's a great human being, and he's totally ready to be president, which is why he's a perfect choice.
You know, it's interesting you say that, James, because my brother, who actually worked with you back in the day, worked for Tim Kaine, and I said, "Can I quote you on this?" And he said, "Yeah, he just thinks the world of him. So just as a person, thinks the world of him." You know, politically, it's one of these situations where folks that are watching this process play out on the outside, right, are looking for these political signals of where this person's going to be.
Right.
He voted for Trade Promotion Authority. He is, I think, in the sort of right half of the Democratic caucus, I think it's fair to say. So when you say to those folks, well, look, this is a really fundamentally great, decent guy, it's like, well, I've never worked with him, right? The thing that I can read is what his voting record, what his positions are.
Yeah, he can be loved in the state of Virginia, but not so well loved in terms of where we are in terms of the Democratic Party right now. And I think it's a great political decision for the Clinton campaign to make. I thought he had a great rollout yesterday, but progressives are still asking a lot of questions. They're asking about his record on crime, because obviously criminal justice reform is one of the big planks of what we're thinking about in terms of the left wing of the party. People are asking about TPP. People are asking about some of his more centrist Clintonian positions. I think the reality is that Hillary Clinton has moved a bit to the left because of Bernie Sanders. The question is where's Governor Kaine in terms of that particular
We've already seen that happen on day one on TPP, right? I mean, so here's a guy, voted for Trade Promotion Authority. By the way, it's incredible because now both parties are opposed to this thing, which is head-snapping in its own. And when you step back and you think to yourself, wow.
That's people in the streets.
So Kaine says, yeah, I'm against it. I'm on the ticket now.
Kaine and the rest of the Democratic Party sees this rise of populism, and they're not running against a traditional candidate in Donald Trump, because places in the Rust Belt, places like Pennsylvania, where Republicans really wouldn't be playing in a traditional cycle, in places like Western Pennsylvania, now you wonder, is Trump a wild card? And so, of course, Kaine's adapting.
You know, I want to play something that Hillary Clinton said about Tim Kaine yesterday, just in that event, which I thought was, from just a pure sort of political theatric optics perspective, was extremely well executed. This is her sort of talking about his backbone of steel. Take a listen.
There's no doubt in my mind, because I'm here with him, that Tim is so qualified to be vice president, and as I have said many times, the most important qualification when you are trying to make this really big choice is, can this person step in to be president? Make no mistake, behind that smile, Tim also has a backbone of steel. Just ask the NRA.
Jeremy, Kaine is going to be in a role, you know, the traditional idea of thinking of the sort of running mate as something of an attack dog. I think part of the reaction to Kaine at first was like, he seems like a nice guy, but like, is he really going to go out and like slash and burn the way that we've seen, say, Elizabeth Warren? What do you think of that?
Well, I think when you hear what the Secretary just said about Kaine, when you think about his leadership on gun violence prevention coming from Virginia, when you think about, he was one of the first to be out there sort of putting the ban on smoking in restaurants in the home of Philip Morris. I mean, this is a guy who has stood up on issue after issue and been a leader, and I think you see a massive contrast between his policies and Mike Pence's policies, his policies and Donald Trump's policies, and you'll see him pushing those.
I should say, I don't even know what Mike Pence's policies are, because he's now on a Trump ticket in which many of his policies appear to have been subsumed.
It's not just policies with Kaine, because you look at who one of his best friends is in the Senate. It's Bob Casey. And temperament and tone matter as much to these Philadelphia suburban voters and other suburban voters around the country who may be intrigued by Trump's populism, but they say, is he temperamentally ready for the White House? In Kaine, you got someone who sells to suburban voters.
I want to talk about this sort of satisfaction. You know, the big question here, we got these folks behind us here. There's going to be a lot of people in Philadelphia all week who are here, who have...
Big demonstration earlier.
Yeah, and who are in the sort of leftern part of the Democratic Party, if not sort of to the outside of the Democratic Party.
Right. And,
you know, there's this question about, you know, party unity. So this is an interesting sort of polling. Are you satisfied with your nominee? Democrats satisfied 54%, wanted someone else 45%. The Republicans only 38% satisfied and 60% wanted someone else. Now, here's what I think is interesting. There was no person who embodied Never Trump in Cleveland other than Cruz. So there wasn't a critical mass of people who were there who were like, I'm for this person. Here, there is that, right? So even though I think resistance to Hillary Clinton's nowhere near as high as it is to Trump, there is also this big constituency of folks for Bernie Sanders, and not just for Bernie Sanders as a person, but for an agenda and set of ideas that I think are going to play throughout the 4 days.
Yeah, and I think Senator Sanders would be the first person to say that this movement is not about me, right? And that's what I'm saying, all these ardent supporters. I mean, it's great to chant Bernie, but the reality is that, and I was talking to Robert about this a little bit earlier, we're seeing the sort of slow dissolution of the bipartisan system. You're seeing the wings of political parties become stronger and stronger. And I think the future of this is beyond Bernie Sanders. It really is.
Which makes it so fascinating to me that the Trump approach to the Kaine, the Kaine naming was, the standard RNC approach would be like, liberal Tim Kaine, too liberal for America. But instead, they went with like, oh, let's troll for Bernie supporters, which Trump has been on Twitter for like 2 days, basically just like concern trolling, like, the system's rigged for Bernie. And it's like, who is your audience, dude? Like, I just don't think that, what do you think of that approach?
The way the Trump campaign sees this is they can't count on all these conservative voters in every state, so they have to rouse some of these working class voters who have not voted for perhaps a decade, people who are maybe labor intensive in their profession, people who are just disenchanted with the political system, and that's why it's his outreach to Bernie, because they know they can't count on that usual Republican coalition.
But I can't tell who the audience, it seems to me the audience is like one of those classic things where you pretend to be talking to someone, but you're actually talking to that person. Like, I don't think he's actually talking to Sanders supporters, right? I think it's like, to me, what the read on it is, he didn't like what Ted Cruz did in his convention. He wants it, like, he wants to see civil war in Philadelphia.
No, I mean, he absolutely does. I mean, their convention was an utter and total disaster, right? From Cruz's speech,
except he's 2 points down in the Real Clear Politics polling average. So aside from that, how is the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
Well, I know, but so he does want to he wants to switch the conversation as quickly as possible. Usually when you come out of your convention, you want to keep the focus on you. You want to come out with momentum. All of a sudden, they didn't come out with any of that momentum, so obviously they want to change the conversation. But, you know, who knows?
Sanders' speech matters, though. Sanders...
Yeah, that's why it matters so much.
If Sanders really leans in here and mentions Secretary Clinton once or twice and makes it about his movement, that's going to say a lot about how this convention is going to go.
Well, and he also, I feel like when you're handing someone the loaded gun when you concern troll on their behalf. Right? Because you're saying, well, I, Donald Trump, I'm sticking up for the Sanders supporters. Well, Bernie Sanders is going to get up in a national address and be like, no effing way you are not.
Right. I mean, listen, there is a triangulation that you're talking about here, but the reality is that there are some Sanders supporters who say they will vote for Trump, right? And so I think Trump, not these folks here, right? But so Trump is trying to play on that a little bit, and you're right. The audience he's speaking to is his base. Remember, he's on the inside-outside piece, even though in some ways Trump is the consummate insider. He's saying he's outside of politics, outside of the system. He's saying Tim Kaine is totally inside that system.
All right, if there was a Greek chorus that also was feeling the burn, that would be the setting for today.
Yes.
Jeremy Bird, Robert Costa, and James Peterson, thanks for being with me tonight. I appreciate it. Still to come, a behind-the-scenes look at the DNC through their internal emails, thousands of which were made public this week, after it appears a massive hack. Stay with us.